You've seen before pictures of sculptures or of small products just kind of floating on a white background or on some color background with no shadows or no horizon. Well, what I'm going to show you how to do now is how to make that kind of photograph right on a little tabletop here. And you can see that I don't need much room to do this with. Let me show you how I'm going to do it. What I need to do this is I need a few components. I need a sweep table or a seamless background, and that's going to take the form of this deflector made by a company called Sharpics. I mean, it folds up. This one is only about 20 inches wide, but it folds up, and when you open it, you can see that I have a green piece of material in here. This is a color of green that I can use to separate my sculpture from the background. I can drop this out and just add in whatever I need to do in the computer. And we'll see how to do that in one of the other tutorials. In addition to having the green, we also have an option of using white or black. And again, in the other tutorials, we're going to show how to do this on a couple of different surfaces. Okay, that's the first part of the system. The first component is the sweep table. Then we have our lights. Our lights here, this is a system of 3 lights made by a company called Sharpics. That's Sharpics. You can go to sharpics.com to see their entire line. They make the sweep table, they make monopods, they make the lamps, and we're going to use these to make our photograph. Okay, the light we're going to be using is basically just a compact fluorescent bulb. But this particular compact fluorescent bulb is balanced to daylight, which means it works perfectly with your digital camera to give you the right color of light so that you can make your image. Now, we're looking at this in 2 flavors. One is just a bare bulb, and then the other has a diffuser on top. The diffusion material is just a little thing like a shower cap that pops right on the front. And this works with the light to soften it. Now, the other lamp that I'm showing here is a background light. This is called a boom light. You can see this attaches to the table, or maybe you can't see it from where you are, but this attaches to the table, and it hangs over the background and shines onto the background, and it's going to light the background and also may give a nice little rim light around the sculpture. So these are our components that we're going to be using as far as our lighting. The only other thing that we're going to have, well, there's a couple of only other things. One is we're going to be using some reflector cards. Now, these cards are nothing more than, this is like a white cardboard that I'm going to be placing in here to fill in some of the shadows that are going to be showing up on this side of the sculpture, since the light is coming from over here. And I'm only going to be using 1 light or possibly 2 lights if I choose to light the background, so that we're going to be using this to even out our lighting. If this isn't strong enough, we can use one that's like crumpled up aluminum foil. And we'll look at that. That gives a bit stronger light. And sometimes if we want to actually introduce shadows into the side, we can use a black piece of paper. Now, let's walk around to the front here. Let's start by turning on a background light just to light the set up a little bit. And you can see here that there's a little light coming around the top. Most of the light is on the background. Now, when we work with our final image, all this area is going to be knocked out. It's going to be eliminated. So we really don't need to worry about the way the light is falling on that. The light that we do need to worry about is the main light, the light that's coming in to light our object. And what we're going to do is, first I'm going to look at a light that is done without the diffuser. This is just the bare tube. And you can see that I've got some pretty sharp shadows going on here. And what we can do is we can change the way this object is lit just by how we move our lamp around. So we're going to move this to where we like to see it, and that looks pretty good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to use one of those reflectors to fill in the side. And by the way, to stand the reflector up, I'm just going to use a bottle of water here. And again, if the reflector is in the shot, that's okay, because we're going to be taking care of this once we get it into the computer. Now you can see here by putting the reflector in that I have lightened up this side over here so that we're actually working with one lamp here. Now, remember I told you this is the bulb that does not have the diffusion on it. Let's take a look here and see what happens when we use something with the diffusion. You can see now that the shadows are much softer and we have a much more even flow. It's a much lower contrast image. So there's our shot, and you can see that the light is coming in from the side, maybe a little bit from the front. Now, if I wanted to have the darker side lit up even more, then what I can do is I can put this silver reflector in, and you can see that that puts some nice bright highlights on the shoulders here. And that might be even a little bit too much. Again, if I wanted to put this side of the image in dark shadow, then what I would do is just bring this dark card in, and that would take care of it. Now, one of the things you may be thinking, why would I want to shoot a green piece of sculpture on a green background? Well, it turns out that these greens are far enough apart, and this is a very special green that is used so that it can be isolated and it can be dropped out. We'll get into this a lot more when we start working with actually photographing our image. Now, there's one thing that I didn't tell you that you need, that you do need. You really have to put your camera on a tripod or a monopod that's attached to the table. Anything to hold the camera steady, because some of your exposures may be fairly long. And if you want your image sharp, you're going to need to have it on a sturdy support. So let's just take one other look here, and then we can go on to the other tutorials. Let's turn the background light off, and you can see what happens here, that the differences in that lighting. Now the background light is a little bit darker, and maybe we'd want to turn the lamp here a little bit just to get some more light into the background, and we can vary this as we need to do it when we shoot.